Way back in the mid-1960s, in my place of work, I saw written on the wall these words, "You're only young once." And some cynic had written underneath it, "True, but you're old for a long time." That phrase has stuck with me all of my life. You're old for a long time. So when are we young? Young men, young women. I'm not talking about childhood here. We'll say a young man or a young woman, 18 to 35. What's that? 17 years? And then after that you're old? Certainly not. Another thing which I can remember, my daughter, who's now pushing 60, said to me at the time when she was in her 20s, or maybe even her late teens, she said, "Dad, what's it like to be middle-aged?" And I said to her, "Do you mean young middle age or old middle age?" And that sort of stumped her a bit. And I tried to explain then, in young middle age, I was young middle age as an Antarctic expeditioner. 40 years of age, I went on a year's expedition. So I was still young middle age. At old middle age, 64, I doubt they would have let me do anything like that. So middle age stretches over a long period of time. So when does old age begin? Are we old at 66, 65, 66? Certainly not. Certainly not. Are we young old or old old? If we're young old, we're in our 60s up to mid-70s. And if we're old old, we're beyond our mid-70s up to whenever we fall off the peg. So you can see these figures are pretty arbitrary and really depend a great deal on how we view our lives. I remember when I was 33, 1969, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin on the moon, the big moon landing, the big event of the 20th century. To me, these guys were old. I was 33 and they were around 40. So when do we reach our peak? It's hard to say. Physical peak and mental peak, mental abilities, quick thinkingness, etc. At some stage or another, all of these sort of reach a peak at the same time. But, well, maybe not. Maybe not. Because as a young fellow of, say, 18 or 19, you seem to be able to run forever. I can remember when I came back from the Antarctic, my eldest son was in the army. Anyway, he was a runner, and I thought I'd do a bit of running too. So I went to this park and started to jog around the park. My son arrived. I was about 41, and he was a lot younger than me. I ran as fast as I could, and he ran around the park twice when I ran around once. So inevitably, something happens to our ability to be able to do physical things at quite a young age, which makes you wonder. We live in a world where the young person is regarded as someone to look up to. The child looks at the sportsman, the person who can play football well, the person who can play Aussie rules or hockey or swim fast. They're looking at the young men and they can't think beyond that. The kids at school hero worship the people who are somewhere between the ages of 20 and 35. Anyone after that is old. Seems to me the focus of looking only at young people doesn't prepare our children for all of those years, the 50 years or so between 35 and 85 or more. We need to instill, I think, at a very early age that lifelong learning is important. Hero worship is good up to a point, but beyond that, there's much more life ahead, many, many more things to do. And I think this needs to be emphasised to the young, the children especially, that life does not end when you're only young once is over. It's barely begun. At that age, it's barely begun.